Exper Exposito story doesn't start with flashing cameras, red carpets, or screaming fans. Scenes. It begins in a small corner of Madrid, long before the world ever learned her name, in a childhood that was quieter, lonelier, and far more complex than most people imagine. Second, she was born on January 26, 2000, in Spain, a winter child wrapped in cold air and soft silence. While other kids ran loudly through playgrounds, Esther was different, observant, still, a watcher rather than a talker. Her parents would later say she had a cinematic gaze, even as a toddler, as if she was studying the world, collecting emotions for a role she didn't yet know she would play. Cinti, but that silence came with a shadow. Esther struggled socially. She wasn't the loudest, the funniest, or the most confident kid in class. In fact, she often felt invisible. She wasn't bullied, but she wasn't embraced either, a ghost in her own school hallways. Teachers described her as dreamy, distant, and lost in her own world, not knowing that this world would one day become her greatest strength. Cece's at home. She escaped into fantasy. She would lock herself in her room and rehearse imaginary scenes, crying, laughing, arguing with characters only she could see. While other kids chased soccer balls, Esther chased emotions. She didn't know it yet, but she was training, building the muscles of storytelling long before she ever stepped onto a stage. Secret, there was also a secret fear growing inside her, the fear of not being enough. She watched other girls louder, prettier, more confident, and wondered why she couldn't be like them, why her voice shook when she spoke, why her hands trembled when classmates stared at her, why she felt so small in such a big world. This insecurity would follow her for years. But life has a strange way of shaping destiny in silence. One night, when she was barely 6, her parents took her to a small theater performance in Madrid. Nothing grand, just a local production. But for Esther, it was a revelation. Dimmed, when the lights dimmed and the actor stepped into someone else's skin, something awakened in her. It was electric. She realized something powerful. On stage, you could be anyone. You could feel everything, and no one could judge you. Theater became her first spark of purpose. The first time she felt seen, not by others, but by herself. From that night on, she wasn't just a quiet girl. She was a girl with a secret fire. She began begging her parents for acting lessons. At first, they laughed. She was too young, too shy, too fragile. But Esther didn't let go. For the first time in her life, she wanted something loudly. Tears, and that persistence changed everything. At age 7, she entered her first acting workshop. She walked into the room terrified, tiny among strangers, heart pounding, stomach tight. The instructor asked each child to introduce themselves. Most shouted confidently. Esther could barely whisper her name. 6. But then came the exercise that would mark her forever. Show me sadness. Stickered, other kids giggled, unsure what to do. Esther didn't laugh. She stepped forward, took a breath, and transformed. Tears filled her eyes, real tears, as if she had opened some hidden drawer inside her chest. The entire room fell silent. Even the instructor froze. 0. This was not normal. This was raw. This was talent. It was the first time anyone had truly seen her. The shy, invisible girl had something extraordinary buried under fear, scared emotional power. That moment became the very first page of her real life, the beginning of a journey she didn't yet understand. Tears, she left the workshop, changed. For the first time, she felt bigger than her silence. Acting wasn't just a hobby, it was oxygen. A place where she could escape judgment, insecurity, and the fear of being not enough. But destiny doesn't rise without resistance. States. As Esther grew older, her world became more complicated. She entered adolescence, a time filled with mirrors, comparisons, and pressures she wasn't ready for. Her beauty began to bloom, but instead of confidence, it brought confusion. People started noticing her face before they noticed her voice. Compliments felt strange, almost unreal. Deep down, one question haunted her. Do they like me? Or the idea of me? It was the first crack in a long emotional battle, a battle between who she was and who the world wanted her to be. A battle that would follow her all the way into fame. Third, but for now, she was still just Esther, a quiet girl with a secret talent and a storm waiting to unfold. and she had no idea that her life was about to take a dramatic turn, because every hidden star eventually steps into the light. Stade's teenage years were a battlefield, not in the dramatic, explosive way people imagine, but in the quiet, internal way that shapes a person forever. While some teenagers fight with the world, Esther fought with herself. Indeed, by the time she reached 13, her desire to perform had grown, but so had her insecurities. She was beautiful, everyone could see it, but she didn't believe it. She avoided mirrors, hated attention, and felt uncomfortable in her own skin. She was the kind of girl who wore oversized clothes to hide her figure and kept her hair down to cover her face. But deep inside, she had a burning need to express herself. It's easy. Her parents noticed how acting shifted her energy. When she rehearsed, she wasn't shy. She wasn't silent. She became someone else, someone louder, bolder, freer. So they enrolled her in more advanced acting classes across Madrid. This was when something interesting happened. She wasn't the most confident student. She wasn't the most talkative, but she was the most intense. When others performed scenes, they acted. When Esther performed, she felt she could cry on command, deliver emotion like lightning, and sink into characters with a maturity far beyond her age. Teachers repeatedly told her parents, "This girl has something rare. She feels life deeper." But there was a darker side. Social media started becoming a culture. Esther faced a new challenge: comparison. At school, she was often compared to other prettier girls, louder girls, more popular girls. She wasn't the queen bee. She wasn't the party girl. She wasn't the seductive type. It sucked her deeply, especially because she felt emotions so strongly. She often went home crying, believing she didn't belong anywhere. But instead of collapsing, she turned the hurt into fuel for her acting. Pain became performance. Silence became strength. Sadness became art. Around 15, Esther began auditioning. The rooms terrified her. Casting directors, bright lights, cameras, everything felt overwhelming. She often froze during introductions, but delivered powerful performances once the acting began. And then it happened. Her first small TV role. Second, it wasn't glamorous, it wasn't big, but it was proof. She belonged in this world. This tiny role lit a fire inside her. She wanted more, not fame, not applause, but storytelling. She wanted to feel alive. But as she entered professional acting, a new pressure began forming. Appearance. Directors loved her talent, but they loved her face more. Suddenly, people commented on her body, her hair, her walk, her lips. Compliments felt like criticism. She questioned whether she was talented or just pretty. This created a painful identity crisis. Will anyone take me seriously? Will they see the real me? These questions would stay with her for years, even into stardom. 16. Esther had convinced her parents to let her pursue acting full-time. They moved her closer to Madrid's entertainment scene. It was a huge sacrifice for the family, and Esther felt pressure to make it worth it. New city, new opportunities, new loneliness. She didn't know many people. She wasn't outgoing. She spent most of her days bouncing between auditions, acting classes, and long nights of self-doubt. But this isolation did something miraculous. It sharpened her. It hardened her. It turned her into a creator. Winning Madrid's theater awards. Incredibly, at just 17 and 18 years old, she won the Best Actress award twice in a row at the Madrid Theater Awards. An impossible achievement for someone her age. But the awards didn't solve her insecurities. They intensified them. People expected greatness. People expected beauty. People expected perfection. And with every expectation came another secret fear. What if I'm not good enough? Sixth, she didn't realize her life was about to explode in a way she could never imagine, because the audition that would change everything was waiting just around the corner. Elite. Heroes that would turn her into a global icon. A role that would introduce her to millions. And a character that would define an entire generation. But also, a fame that would come with a price she wasn't ready to pay. When Esther walked into the audition room for Elite, she had no idea her entire life was about to shift. She wasn't dressed like the other girls, no heavy makeup, no bold outfit, no look-at-me attitude. She sat quietly in the corner, clutching her script, trying to slow down her heartbeat. The casting directors noticed her silence before they noticed her beauty. When her turn came, she stepped into the room with trembling hands. And then, she transformed. Feared Carla Rosencold. Elegant, mysterious, dangerously calm. A girl who could break hearts with a whisper. When Esther delivered her first lines, the casting team froze. There was something intoxicating about her presence. Not loud, not exaggerated, but sharp, quiet, hypnotic. Feel of her emotional intensity, her controlled vulnerability, her magnetic stillness. She wasn't acting, she was Carla. The role was hers almost instantly. What Esther didn't know was that this character would redefine her future, her identity, and her relationship with the world. Ewind. When Elite premiered on Netflix, it exploded. One day, Esther was a rising actress in Spain. The next, she was a worldwide sensation. Her Instagram followers jumped from a few thousand to millions in weeks. People called her Spain's most captivating face, Netflix's breakout goddess, the new symbol of European beauty. Her character's seductive aura, emotional depth, and icy mystique made her unforgettable. But fame came with a dark twin, steeple exposure. People monitored every detail of her life. Every outfit, every movement, every relationship, every imperfection. And suddenly, Esther's greatest childhood insecurity resurfaced. The fear of being seen and judged. Being pretty comes with a burden. While her fans adored her, the industry had molded her into a stereotype. The sexual, the seductive, the perfect face, the mysterious beauty. Everyone admired her beauty, but few recognized her talent. And that hurt her more than anyone knew. Esther wanted to be taken seriously, not objectified. She wanted respect, not idealized. She wanted depth, not assumptions. Behind closed doors, she constantly doubted herself. Am I just a pretty face? Will they ever see my talent? Fame didn't silence her insecurities. It deepened them. Fame skyrocketed. So did the gossip. Rumored relationships, fictional scandals, false plastic surgery accusations. The world picked apart her nose, her lips, her eyes, as if she were a product, not a person. Every flaw was magnified. Every angle was analyzed. She cried in private, smiled in public, and kept performing even when her heart was tired. Because she knew the truth. Fame doesn't protect you, it exposes you. Despite the glamour, Esther began feeling trapped. Carla Rosen was powerful. Carla was confident. Carla controlled every room. But Esther was not Carla. Esther was soft, sensitive, afraid of letting people down. She felt pressure to remain perfect, not just as an actress, but as an image. It was exhausting. But then came a turning point, a decision that changed the trajectory of her career. She left Elite. She walked away from the show that made her famous. A courageous move people didn't understand. But she did it for one reason. She wanted to grow, not as a celebrity, as an artist. And that choice opened the door to a new chapter. One filled with films, international recognition, and a stronger sense of identity. Mysterious and unknown traits. His silent working style, when preparing for a role, he spends days introspecting, not speaking to anyone, and studying the character's psychology. This habit, especially during his time at Elite, surprised even his teammates. His incredible observational skills. He's said to analyze people's body language even in crowded environments. This is the source of the sharp gaze he gives his characters. Extreme sensitivity to animals. He's known for completely softening when he sees an animal. No matter how tense the scene on set, a night worker. Creates creativity is at its peak between 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. This is when he reads scripts or prepares for roles. Second, in real life, she's quite shy, while she appears confident on the red carpet. In her daily life, she's quiet, observant, and modest. Obsession with collecting, she collects old Polaroid cameras and antique rings. She's drawn to dark roles because she's so emotional. She tries to avoid characters that leave a lasting impression. According to 2025 data, Exper Exposito's estimated net worth is between $2.50 and $3 million. Income sources, earnings per episode from the Elite series, $50,000, $80,000. Film and TV projects, average annual income of $300,000, $600,000. Fashion deals, Bulgari, Eve, Saint Laurent. 6 Instagram-sponsored collaborations, $30,000, $60,000 per post. European films and commercials. This is her largest source of income. Exper Exposito's story has always been more than fame, beauty, or red carpets. It is the tale of a quiet battle hidden beneath a flawless glow. A journey that began in the narrow streets of Madrid, where a young girl dreamed far beyond what anyone thought possible. She faced rejection after rejection in early auditions, yet never lost faith in herself. Behind her delicate posture was a fire-silent, persistent, unshakable field. When Elite transformed her into a global phenomenon, Exper was still at her core. That same young girl stepping onto the stage for the first time, nervous, hopeful, and burning with passion. Fame followed her like a tidal wave. Millions of followers, international attention, overwhelming expectations. But she never became a prisoner of the spotlight. Every step came with its own test-intense criticism, pressure on her private life, and heavy responsibilities placed on someone so young. And through all of it, something quietly grew within her. Her identity. What makes Exper powerful today isn't success alone. It's how she carried the weight that came with it. Instead of being crushed by sudden fame, she shaped it into a tool. She chose deeper, more sophisticated roles and slowly carved out her place in European cinema. Critics began calling her one of the rising forces of her generation, the golden girl of modern Spanish cinema. Exper, however, watched everything from a distance, moving forward with a calm, steady inner voice. Where she stands now is defined not by red carpets, brand deals, or breathtaking beauty, but by resilience, silence, and a fierce loyalty to herself. And perhaps the most intriguing part, Exper still believes she is only at the beginning of her story. Future plans remain a mystery. She works behind the scenes with the disciplined few know about new film negotiations, international collaborations, and upcoming streaming platform projects, all pointing toward a major evolution. But her story is not just one of victories. It is a story woven with losses, heartbreak, internal storms, and rebirth. At a young age, she has already proven something powerful. True stardom isn't where the eyes shine bright. It's where the light comes from within. And that is exactly where Exper Exposito's brilliance shines the most. Her story is not over. In fact, it's only beginning. And the world watches, curious and captivated, waiting to see where this remarkable young woman will go next. From ashes to legend, every story has a rhythm. You just have to listen deeply.